Sweet.
You guys are good to go.
We're starting another Wikimetal Happy Hour with a very special guest, one of our favorite guitar players in the world today, Mr. Sam Kiszka. How are you, Sam?
I'm doing so well. How are you?
I'm glad. I'm really happy because I've been listening to an amazing album for the past couple of days. And first of all, congratulations on the battle at Garden's Gate. That sounds incredible, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a great long journey, and it's been a beautiful one for sure.
Yeah, it's an amazing album. I mean, how is it different from your previous one? Because I suppose it has the road element. I was picturing myself driving on a highway and listening to the album when sun was out and it was a beautiful day. And the album has this road element. Do you agree with that? Was that written while you guys were on the road?
For the most part, I mean, it was written years ago on the road. It was written recently on the road. It was written in the studio. We went up in cabins and every way possible. And that's why every single song has a very obvious kind of personality and life. And that's one of my favorite things about the record is, each song is very different.
And do you agree it shows a more mature band from the first one?
Absolutely, and I certainly hope it would, because it's been about, I don't know, 2 years since the last record came out.
Yeah, and I saw you guys playing here at Lollapalooza here in São Paulo, and I had the opportunity to see you on your own show a couple of days later, and I was amazed by the energy that you guys had live. You're very young. How did you become such great musicians at such a young age?
We just fake it. No, I'm just kidding.
No, bullshit. Come on. You play it all the time. I see a piano in the back, a guitar over there. You play music all the time, I suppose, or no?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's our way of life. It's our way of expression. If I'm not going to sit down and tell someone how I feel. What I would much prefer to do is write a song and have that convey the emotion. But yeah, it's definitely it's always what we do, and music is a beautiful language, and that's what we've been kind of working with to get us through this whole pandemic.
Yeah, I suppose you guys were in a very different rhythm with your lives before this whole thing started, and then you had to stop with everything. Was the album, the whole album was written before the pandemic started or during it?
Actually, yes. Most of the album was actually recorded before the pandemic happened. But we did the last 2 songs in LA probably 4 months ago now. And it was a weird time. We went to the studio in Hollywood, and obviously we're wearing face masks because we're working in an enclosed space. And outside, the fires are raging on. It smells like ashes. So that's a whole, different part of the record. And it kind of preaches what the album is kind of saying in a lot of ways, which is ironic.
And where do you guys live now? You guys live in LA?
We live in Nashville.
Wow, another very interesting music city. But you come from a tiny city called Frankenmuth. Am I pronouncing it right? Frankenmuth? Frankenmuth?
Yeah, we say Frankenmuth because we just Americanize it. But in the classic German, it'd be more like Frankenmuth.
It's a German town, right?
Yeah.
And like these days, everybody seems to say that rock and roll is dead, and there are not new bands coming, and then you guys come up from a tiny city in the US, and then you prove that everybody's wrong. And how do you feel that? I suppose you're an inspiration for so many kids. How do you feel being a role model for the kids today?
It's really interesting because the way that I perceive myself is definitely not the same way that the younger generation or like even my peers, perceive me, and kind of being some kind of role model which in my head is hilarious. But really, I think it's a huge responsibility to be able to take charge and be able to say what is right and what is wrong. And I think with Garden's Gate, there's a lot that we had to say, and I think we got it all out. And it's, you know, it's definitely in some way a hopeful kind of epilogue. It's a series of stories, and yeah, I think it translates to people innately.
And since like rock and roll is not the most popular music genre today, but at the same time, you guys proved that you know, it was possible to start a band and start a music career and pursue it and make it big and become successful. Do you think that a lot of kids look at the band and think that they can make it because of what happened with you?
Absolutely, yes, yes, I do think that, and I've seen a few bands that, you know, dress like us. They'll, you know, be playing similar stuff musically, and it's really cool to see because it's kind of an awakening from a different perspective. To be here now and look back on, you know, how we probably looked 4 years ago. So that's really cool, and I'm really glad to feel that there's a difference being made and that people are being inspired, because that's half of what we do. I mean, touring. Um, we want people to come, and we want them to take that energy and be inspired and take that back out into the world and, you know, apply it in their own way.
And whenever a rock band appears and you know, becomes successful, everybody starts saying that you know, the saviors of rock and roll or something. Is it a burden too heavy to carry? Or I think that we needed maybe 20 Greta Van Fleets to, you know, it will be ideal. But I mean, there are not that many bands like yours today, are there? I mean,
That's
not
a
being
good
commercially
question.
successful, at least.
Yeah, and exactly. And that's the thing. We don't really see that. We don't know, because a lot of the time our society isn't so accepting of things that they don't necessarily understand. Um, so I think that's the fundamental issue, is that there is a really amazing music out there. It's just not, it's just perhaps not that time for it. I think many years from now, we'll see this avant-garde music that these young people are making and say, oh, that was the future. They were ahead of their time.
And I was really impressed by the kids that were, you know, packed. Your show was completely sold out, and the kids were like very young, and you don't see the kind of audience when you go to rock and roll concerts today. So I have to thank you for bringing that kind of music to a younger generation. It's very important. So a lot of kids can look at you and maybe start a band or something like that.
Absolutely. And I think it's the coolest thing to be able to inform these young people of this music that they'd never heard of before. Going back to Robert Johnson and Big Bill Broonzy and Lightning Hopkins and Taj Mahal, and knowing the lineage, knowing the fundamentals of the American folk music and blues music and jazz music, and where that came from in the lineage, and how it grew into this music that we know today. And really, you know, trying to find music that's really true in this day and age.
But like you're mentioning the classic artists, and I would, when I listen to your music, I also see some references from bands from the 70s or sometimes artists from the 90s, but none of them had to deal with such things as social media or things like that. None of them had to deal with haters. How do you guys deal with haters or bad people that say, you know, mean things about the band or don't understand what you guys are doing?
We like to stay unplugged from the source, as if you will, because that can definitely get in your head. And I think that's a really important thing is we have this technology where anybody can say whatever they want at any time. And, you know, that's not fair. That's not fair to anybody to be able to have this very innate, quick, unrefined reaction to something. So it's just, that's one of the things about the internet that we haven't figured out yet. Because it's a baby. This technology that we have is a baby. And you're very, very right that our generation really faces this. We're looking this right in the eyes. This is something that we've been bestowed with, you know, the older generations, but this is something that's going to land in our court. This is something that we're going to have to unite and fix and figure out what our priorities are as a generation, as the new world.
Yeah, absolutely. And these days, I suppose another challenge for young artists and young bands is the amount of money that bands are making from streaming services. It's very very little. So we see all the time, you know, musicians giving up their careers or people breaking up bands because they can't make a living. What would you have to say to these musicians that are having a difficult time or not finding a way to you know have a decent earning from their career?
I would say weather weather the storm. You know, hunker down, be patient. You know, find a job in the meantime if you can. Do what you can to get by, but don't give up. Because resilience is kind of the story of depth. Khalil Gibran has this wonderful thing that I always think about from the Prophet, and it's essentially the fact that the deeper you dig the trench, the higher you can build. So yeah, that's what I would want to communicate to all those people that are tough time, because I mean, physical music is not so much a thing, and streaming, I mean, you can't expect to make any money off of that. It's all touring. I mean, that's how you can make a living off of this, at least.
Yeah, it's great advice. And changing the subject, Sam.
So sorry to interrupt. We have time for one more question.
Yeah. Okay. We have you have you know, your two brothers in the same band. We don't get to see that many bands with more than one brother or two brothers, actually. How proud are your parents to see you guys playing together and doing great music?
They're very proud of us, and I think that's a wonderful thing. Family was always important to us. It was always us, our family together, and that's how we grew up, and that's how we, you know, has always been. So, I mean, I guess that's kind of a dream for parents, is to have their kids grow up and do something and find their passion and leave the nest. I mean, there's something really poetic and something really beautiful about that. But yeah, they're very proud, and you know, I guess we're proud to be a family.
That's fantastic. I met your brother at the airport in Brisbane in 2019 on the immigration line, and he was also very nice and friendly, just the same way you are. So your parents must be really proud for having these kids as great musicians, great artists, but also very nice and friendly people. So thank you so much for your interview, Sam. And we really wish the very best for Greta Van Fleet for the future. We know that this album will be a huge hit, and count on us to promote you guys in Brazil. We're very happy to do so.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for the support. We can't wait to come back.
My pleasure, man. There was Sam Kiszka on our Wikimetal Happy Hour, a very special guest. Once again, thank you for your audience, and see you next time, Sam.
I'll see you next time.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks.